oh, what that Poodle can do. And if you've got music of I Do Like That Doggy in the Window going in your head, you're going to love this session. Over to you, Justin.
Thank you very much, Linda. Yes. Yes, so today we'll be and more about what Poodle can do, what features it has, and walk you around the Poodle demo site. And I'm going to assume that you don't know about Poodle, although I suspect probably most of you do, but the presentation is geared towards people who may not know about Poodle. I live in Japan. I've been here for about 20 years, and I came here, I got quite early yesterday thinking that my presentation was going to be at 7 yesterday, but it was actually at 6 a.m. yesterday, so I was really in a bit of a rush to get my headphones on and get going. And so today I was determined not to make the same mistake, so I got to the office at 5:30 in order to do the presentation, and nobody showed up, and I realized I was an hour early, and today's presentation was at 7. So I'm all over the place with times, but the good thing about that is I got to catch somebody else's presentation, which was nice. So let's kick off. So what is Poodle? So basically, Poodle is a way of adding submissions to Moodle, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. Players, audio, video players for Moodle, and widgets, which are interactive things like timers and stopwatches and tabs and accordions. So in terms of submissions, Poodle adds the ability to do audio recording or video recording, or to take snapshots from your webcam, or use a little pop-up whiteboard or an on-screen whiteboard to draw pictures. It adds the ability to use these as submissions into assignments, or as into feedback, or as responses to quiz questions, or simply when you're creating content using the Atto or TinyMC editors. That's the top-level view. But basically, it adds these audio, video, webcam, and whiteboard features throughout Moodle. In terms of players, there are audio and video players in Poodle, and this is a big new feature in Poodle 3. Really, we've implemented what I've made in Video Easy, which is like a kind of a prototype that I thought Moodle should use for the next generation of its audio and video player layer, which they didn't use. They went with something else. But this is the way I thought it should be done, and I implemented that into Poodle because it's very flexible, and I think it's the way of the future. But I won't get on my soapbox too much about that today. I'll just demonstrate some of what that means. And it's also widgets. I call them widgets, but they can be more than that. And these are based on Generico. Generico, you may be aware, is another plugin by me, and that provides WordPress-like shortcode functionality. So you can declare templates which are then available as they look like shortcodes, little filter strings that go into HTML areas, and they will, when displayed, they'll turn into QR codes or toggle buttons or tab sets or accordions. And we'll see some of these a little bit later on in the session. And if I talk too fast, or my New Zealand accent is too strong, or I sound like I'm Japanese, then just stop me. And if you have any questions, there's only a few of us, so it's really fine to get sidetracked a little bit and talk about those questions that you might have. The various plugins in Poodle that make all this happen, there's, I think, what have we got there? There's 8 of them. But the main one, really, the mothership, is the Poodle filter. That's what we need to, that's where all the functionality is really housed, and everything else just kind of calls into the Poodle filter to get its recorder or to get its player. And so the other plugins that actually, I guess, are Poodle filter clients of a sort are the database activity field, the Poodle repository, the Poodle question type, Poodle assignment submission type, Poodle assignment feedback type, and the Poodle Atto editor icon. We call that Poodle Anywhere. And there's also a TinyMCE version, which was called Poodle Anywhere for TinyMCE. So I sometimes kind of describe it as a bit like a Mexican restaurant, because often you go to a Mexican restaurant and you order quesadillas, or you order tacos, or you order a burrito. But at the end of the day, it always seems to be the same thing that you get. It's kind of a collection of sour cream and refried beans and guacamole. So it's a little bit like that. Wherever you go, you're kind of getting the same thing because it's all coming from the Poodll filter. And let's have a look at the video recorders. So the big change really in Poodll 3 that I think most people would be aware of is that we support HTML5 audio and video recording. And this is a really big change. It's a brand new thing. And I think one of the people are a bit surprised, I think, that they don't have more options in HTML5 audio and video recording, from other non-Poodll sources. And it's simply because it's very complicated and it's still very much the Wild West. The APIs change and it's kind of a new thing. So that's why we don't have so many options, and that's good for Poodll because we are, the only option really in some ways. Flash. This is the Flash recorder on the left-hand side, and you can see a little green globe on the left that actually indicates it's connected to something called a Red 5 server, which is actually a really neat feature of Flash, but it's also a point of failure and causes all sorts of kind of discussions and problems with network people. So the sooner we can get away from that, the better, and we can move to HTML5. What you're seeing on the right-hand side is the burnt rose skin for the Poodll HTML5 video recorder, which is not as cool as it looks. In fact, the standard one works a little bit better, and we're working on better designs for the recorders now, including accessibility, which we spoke about briefly before the webinar began. This is on the left-hand side, we can see the audio recorder, the Flash audio recorder, and on the right-hand side, we can see the HTML5 audio recorder, again using the burnt rose skin. The interesting thing about the Flash recorder is that this does not require a Red 5 server. This actually works within your browser, so that's actually a nice thing, and it's fairly good. It's served Poodll very well while we've had that. But the future again is HTML5, so we're looking to use HTML5 with audio and video recorders where possible. We're working hard on implementing recorder skins, which is something Gareth, might be interested in helping me with. We could talk about that. I'd be really keen to talk about that. But on the left-hand side, you can see the plain audio recorder skin, which isn't very exciting at all. And on the right-hand side, we have a concept skin, which Lewis Carr from the UK made for me, and he's hopefully going to be helping me implement some of these skins. And that's like as I mentioned, something I'd really like to get some proper designers in, people who are really good at design, which I'm not, to help me with that. And we have a mobile app in Poodll. And this is really just to bridge the fact that iOS is a real, I better not say the word I want to say. It's a real pain in the butt because they won't support HTML5 audio or video recording yet, even though they're the ones that basically killed Flash by refusing to support it on the iPhone. So we have a mobile app for to bridge that lack of an HTML5 audio and video recorder on the iOS platform. But you can get by without that using the file upload dialog, which is available just off the mobile Safari. But if you want to use the Poodll mobile app, which was written by Jerome Mooneyrack, also in Perth, then that's a good thing too. It's free, of course. History of Poodll. Well, Poodll started out in Moodle 1.9, and it was, it was quite a different thing back then. I was really aiming to build a virtual language lab of sorts on Moodle. But in Poodll 2, we went through a large transition to the new file system and the new APIs, because that was a really big change from 1.9 to 2.x. And Poodll 3, this is where we have all these nice features, which I'll talk about now, new features. First of all, we have annual subscriptions, so it's not free anymore. This was a big shock for a lot of people, but it became too much really to keep it free. And having a subscription model really was able to help me to implement all the features and the nice things that I want to put into Poodll. So it's been a really good thing for Poodll actually. So I don't regret taking Poodll into the commercial space at all. Although it still doesn't pay its way, it wouldn't be enough by itself, but it really does make a difference, and it's really driven the whole HTML5 and the new player systems having that revenue stream. So it's professionally supported, and you'll see also there's some features in Poodle now to assist in support. We have HTML5 recording, and we have cloud services. So those they don't include hosting yet, but they do include conversions of files from different formats into MP4 or MP3, and also a notification service. So we're not reliant on the cron job, which is something we've had to rely on for a while. And we have a player template system. And what we're working on now, well, there it is, accessible recorders and players. Those are really high on the list. Really, really keen to get those going. Amazon AWS regions, we rely heavily on Amazon AWS for transcoding and other services, but various, particularly European countries, they have a requirement that all these kind of services or web services take place in their region, so we need to support different regions. Recorder skins, as mentioned earlier. Support and diagnostics. I think there's more we can do with support and diagnostics, and that actually makes it possible to scale Poodle even greater because we don't have to have so many man hours or woman hours going into support. And expanded cloud services, which really means hosting of audio and video files in the cloud, which we don't do currently. Right now, the audio and video recordings are stored in Moodle. Okay, so that's the end of the PowerPoint part of the presentation, and I'm going to drop into screen share now, and I'm going to walk around the demo site and show you some stuff. So at this point, if you have questions, just type them into the chat area. I think I can see them, and it takes me a minute or two just to get screen sharing set up, although I think I'm a pro now, having done it twice over the last couple of days. Totally got this, Lindy. You know it. So there. So far, so good. So far, so good, everybody. Hold on to your hats. Screen sharing is about to commence. I was really fortunate to have a good chance to talk to Fred Daniels at the UK Moot earlier on, about a month ago in the UK, and he was telling me all about the good stuff they're doing with HTML5 and Big Blue Button. So it's really, really exciting to see that. They are kind of a good example of an open source project that's gone commercial, but is still open source and has a free layer too. Okay, I think we're sharing my desktop now. Something's happening. Oh, look, it is happening. Okay, just turn off all my unnecessary things. Top, I'll log out so you can see the whole thing. Okay. So this is the Poodle demo site. It's at https://demo.poodle.com, and I try to keep this as up to date as possible. Sometimes it's even more up to date than what you would download because I test it out here. I shouldn't, but I test it out here first before I put it live on Moodle.org for other people to use. That's just a way of making sure that I don't blow up the whole world's audio video recording systems and Moodle sites. You can log in as an admin here, or you can log in as a teacher, or you can log in as a student, so you can do all of your testing. I used to have the admin ability to log in as admin turned off because I was just a little bit worried about bad things happening, but I've enabled that again just because so many people wanted to see the settings when they were trying to get their own Poodle set up. So if you want to check how we've set things up here on demo.poodle.com, you're welcome to log in as admin and go and have a look at the settings. It resets every day, 9 AM Japanese time. Okay, so let's log in. We'll log in as admin. And here we have our Poodle demo course. And let's try video recording. I hope this is going to go. It gets a bit weird when you're going to do video recording when you're also screen sharing, so let's hope we don't blow anything up, but with any luck we won't. Okay, so you can see we have, at the top we have the player which is showing the currently submitted assignment submission, because this is not the first time we've used this assignment. And beneath that we have the standard, the plain, unstyled video recorder. So let's do some recording. We are in fact recording. Yeah, okay. And leave that going for a few seconds. Stop. You can play back the recording. For yourselves, it's probably a little bit hard to see, but you can play it back and you can upload. Oh, okay. Play again. It might be a little bit tricky because we've got the Java thing going for the screen sharing, so it is possible we can't actually get a proper capture with the webcam. It's a slightly unusual situation. Let's try it again. Yeah, we're probably going to have a bit of trouble today doing the audio video recording. We'll try one more time though. We'll go over here and let's see if we can use the audio recording. Okay, here again we have our plain recorder. So let's record and do some recording. Blah 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 blah. Will that play back for us? Or will that record for us? Okay, yeah. So I think the screen sharing thing is probably interfering a little bit there. But what we can actually do is do the recording here, and when we press upload, the file is actually sent up to Amazon, not to Moodle, and on Amazon it's converted, and then that file is picked up by Moodle shortly after the conversion has finished. We actually now have a notification coming from Amazon to the Moodle server to say that the conversion has finished, and then the audio file is picked up by Moodle. So that works quite nicely. But unfortunately, I can't demonstrate that for you today, so my apologies there. But there's plenty more to see, so let's continue on. Let's have a look at the whiteboard. So we're looking. These are assignment submissions that we're seeing here, and here we have a whiteboard. So you can draw a picture on our whiteboard. Yes. It's automatically saving a little bit aggressively, which is why it sometimes seems to jump around. But you can alter the frequency with which it auto saves. You have some drawing tools. These are limited drawing tools. In fact, some of the things you see in the latest assignment feedback area for drawing on PDFs and things, those are actually really nice, probably a little bit nicer than here. This is actually not written by me, this particular whiteboard. It's called literally Canvas, but it works quite nicely, so we've implemented it. This is some of the things that we have. Again, we can change the color if we wish. Change the color to red. All right, so when we save the picture, it's already automatically saved actually. When we save our changes, those will be submitted to Moodle. We have a nice picture here. So you can actually set a background image for the whiteboard, so you can annotate an X-ray or you can annotate a map, which is quite useful for when you're working with language students or with medical students. They use this. Another nice thing is that the vector data for this particular drawing is also saved. So having seen this, if I decide that I don't actually want that red arrow, I'd like to have a blue arrow, I can go back in and edit the submission. And I can actually, if I can go back, remove that arrow, change it into a blue arrow. This, I'll make an arrow like this, an arrow like that, not fat enough, make a really big arrow, and save that. This is really useful because I think often the whiteboards you see, when you go back to edit them, you would actually have to use the eraser tool or something like that to deal with your changes or to start completely from scratch. But with the Poodll whiteboard tools, you actually have that history saved, so you can go back and forward. Did you say you can use a BG tool to add a background image? Yes, so should we try that? So edit settings. I haven't tried it for a while, so trying it live is always very risky. So it's a whiteboard, and here we can set the Poodll whiteboard background. So let me see if I can find an image here which we can use as the background. I'm going to use any old image that's on my machine. So maybe here we go. So what is this? Slide 10. Okay, who knows what that could be, but let's put it on there. Okay. And that is now our background image. Okay, and we save and display. Get our submission. Where's our image gone? Perhaps we should have started it. We probably should create a new assignment for this before we do that. We might have gone in trouble by editing an existing assignment and adding a whiteboard background image. Yes, you get on the yeah, that's actually for the. Sorry, let me answer some questions in the comments here. What about the BG tool in the left column toolbar of the whiteboard itself? That sets the background color of the area. And this, as I mentioned, this whiteboard is actually not written by me; it's written by somebody else. So it does work, but in actual fact, I find that the background image doesn't get saved that well. And actually, there are times when you can set a background image, but when it's saved into Moodle, you'll find that the background color, I should say the background color, has gone, and you're just left with whatever it was that you drew on top of the background color. Could it be SVG based so you could remove the object before last without deleting the last? Gareth, I think you probably could do something like that. Although at a certain point, you'd really want to have your own whiteboard before you started putting in changes like that. So you'd actually either fork the literary canvassing and own it, because it would require quite a few changes, or you just start from scratch and make a whiteboard that was truly Moodle. And I was quite interested to see the feedback, the new assignment feedback interface where they have those drawing tools. I thought that might be a good place to start with a whiteboard of sorts. So I'm sorry we didn't get the whiteboard background there, but let's move on because there's more to talk about. So I talked about some of those players, so let's go and have a look at those players, shall we? So here we have audio players. So the top hand side we have the standard audio player, which is Media Element Audio, a standard audio player. The Audio JS, there's something a bit weird there with the Audio JS, don't worry about that. Then we have the native audio, standard HTML5 native audio player. So if you're looking at this on Chrome, it looks like this, but if you're looking on Safari, it's going to look different. If you're looking at this on Internet Explorer, it's going to look different because it's the native audio player for your Moodle site, for your browser. And then we have the Elton player, which is a tiny player, so it's a single button. If you click on that, you get a very quick and short audio. This is very useful for a language learning activity where you may just want the students to hear a single word, and you don't need the progress bar or the timer or even a volume switch. And then we have the Adam player, which was submitted by Adam Murray from Miyazaki, and he wrote this. And this, if you click the button for example 80%, then the audio here will play back slower. If you click it at 125% and you play the audio, it plays back faster. And these two actually submissions from users. They were actually able to create their own audio players within the Poodll interface. So I'll show you a little bit more about the template system later. But this is something I'm really excited about, which is creating different players for educational circumstances. So there are times when, if you look at the next player, for example, where you have a need for a kind of player that isn't really satisfied by the one size fits all Video.js audio player or Video.js video player. So in the case of once player, we might have a situation like a test where we want the students to listen to the audio but only listen to it once. And you can do that using Poodll, and the tools are available. And that's the once player there. Okay, and then we have the standard video.js audio, which this is actually a Poodll implementation of the same thing that is now available in Moodle. And let's go back a little bit. Now, one of the neat things about the audio players and the video player system is that you can set those at the activity or the course level. So it's a little bit confusing, I think, when you first see it. But over here, you will have noticed in your Moodle sites you have this filters menu in your course or your activity. And for the most part, there won't actually ever be any settings here. I've never seen any settings apart from the Poodll or the ones that I've written, the Video Easy ones. But here you can actually manage the settings. So you can turn off multimedia plugins here and just use the Poodll filter, or the reverse for this particular activity or course. You could turn off Poodll and use another filter. But using these settings here, we can set different players for this particular course. So for the Poodll demo course, we could choose the MP4 player to be the tiny video.js player, which is one of the players in Poodll. It's a very small video player. And then all your videos in this particular course would use a tiny video.js. And for the YouTube, for example, we have a handle YouTube. If we decided to handle YouTube with Poodll, then we could choose what have we got here? The YouTube player. There's also a YouTube Lightbox player, YouTube Lightbox. So you could choose on this particular course, we're going to have all our YouTube videos play in a Lightbox. Or in this particular activity, we're going to have all our YouTube videos play in a Lightbox. Or in this particular activity, we're going to have all our audio players are going to be tiny little mini players, like we saw earlier. So this is part of the flexibility that you get from using the Poodll player system. Okay, and let's have a look at video players. Okay, so video players is very similar to the audio player system. We have choices of video players. The media element video player, it's the standard one you'll see in WordPress. It's also available here in Poodll. We have flow player, video.js, the native video player, which is just based on what the browser does. Tiny video.js, which we just saw a moment ago, which was mentioned. So you can create your own players very simply, just as collections of settings that you've, for example, the standard video.js is this size, but you may think, I want to have, for this particular set of activities, I want to have this tiny thing. So you can create a player which bundles those settings as a new player and apply that to those particular activities or courses. Gosh, I hope I'm not losing you. Here's an interesting use of the player system. I've set up an interactive subtitle player using video.js. So this is the Elephant's Dream video, which you probably would have seen. It's kind of an open source poster boy for what you can do with some of the rendering tools for that are available in open source for making videos. But beneath that, we actually have the subtitles are displayed as an interactive transcript. So when we play the video, you going to play it for us? Move forward. You can see that the subtitles are highlighted as the particular part of the movie plays. Oh, that's not a good place. And if we click on a subtitle, it takes us back to that particular point in the video. So this is something that you would see, and you can see in the online MOOCs, Coursera and places like that. So this is a good example of an education player, and this is more of a concept than something I think we'll use right away, but I'd like to have a proper kind of education-based video player that had these features which are good for accessibility, but also just good for general learning. Okay, so those are players, and now let's look at widgets. How are we going for time? Okay, we have time. So we talked about submissions, and we talked about players, and we talked about widgets. So submissions were the audio and video, were the audio and video recorders and the whiteboards. The players, we've just seen some audio and video players. And now I'll show you some of the widgets. So many of these widgets are actually kind of legacy widgets, really, that came from the old Poodll, where I've re-implemented them in the new system, but the new system is really quite different. So here we have a video on the left-hand side, which is just simply using the YouTube player, one of the YouTube players in Poodll. And then over here we have a click counter. So as this comedian goes through and talks about bacon, every time the comedian says the word bacon, the students have to pick that up and click. And it's just a simple click counter. This is an activity we used to use in my language classes here in Japan when I was teaching. How's the stopwatch and calculator? Okay, cool. So here we have a stopwatch, which is quite useful in class. You rather than have the teacher run the stopwatch, you can have the students work in pairs. And one student can run the stopwatch, the other student can do the activity, and they can compare times and do it again without actually having to have a physical stopwatch or have their teacher focused kind of stopwatch thing. And we have a calculator. Again, the calculator is not something I wrote myself, it's something I lifted, but it works okay. Perhaps more interesting, and something that we see quite a lot now in other parts of the web, are these tabs. And these tabs are like this, so we can have content on the first tab, content on the second tab, accordion. Accordion says item 1, item 2, item 1. This is kind of interesting, but what's really interesting is actually how these are made, because the widgets are designed to be basically to be created and used, as opposed to me or Poodll maintaining a list of high quality shortcode widgets. It's really more about people being able to create their own widgets or implement their own, or solutions providers being able to implement their own custom functionality, which I know some people are doing. So it's quite good. But let's make something, okay? So here's a widget test. So here we are on our Poodll demo site, and we're in the forum, and we're going to pop up this is the Poodll Anywhere interface. So here we have I'll show it to you. It's an audio recorder on the HTML editor. This is a video recorder on the HTML editor. This is, we can draw the picture. It's a slightly different whiteboard. It's completely different. And this is a little bit better for the editor because it's smaller. We can drop a picture in there. And we have a snapshot camera. That may not work because of the particular way in which we're doing things. Okay, so that's the main icons on the Poodll Anywhere for Atto. But on the rightmost item is the widgets item. Could you do video content in one tab or another? Absolutely, absolutely. Who said that? Lindy. Let's try it, shall we? So let's insert a widget. So here are some of the widgets that are available. You can create, every time you create a template in Poodll, it's going to show up here to be chosen from the pop-up in Atto. So I'd like to go through and do that shortly, but let's just stick to the basics first of all. So let's try, well, it was mentioned that we could have an audio on one tab and video on another. So let's try that. So first of all, let's select tabs. Okay, and here we have tabs. Now, in between the tabs, we need tab items. So we go back, and this time we'll choose a tab item. And this is the title of the tab item. We'll call this an audio. Okay, and let's add another tab item, and we'll call this one item. Let's call this one a video. Okay. Okay. Right, now for the audio, we actually had a bit of trouble recording audio, but I guess we can try it again. Blah, 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 blah. Upload? No, it's not going to work. So we're having that the same issue because of the screen capture. But it's cool in the gang. Let's add a picture because that's pictures worth 1,000 words. So 1,000 words. Okay. And then we'll go down here to the video, and we can probably insert a video from our the standard Moodle thingies. So let's try that. Browse repositories. I think I have some videos here. Here we are. Spirited Away trailer. It's a Japanese movie. Okay, insert that. Okay, so now we have a video and we have an image, and they're on different tabs. So let's post it to the forum and see how it looks. A widget test. Okay, so here we have the audio tab, which we didn't get the audio, we got the 1000 words picture, and we have the video tab, which has the video on it. Now let me answer some of these questions. Can we use TinyMC to access the widgets? I always have to change to Atto. Unfortunately, Dennis, right now we have to use Atto. There's no technical reason for that. It's just simply kind of a manpower thing, really, or a person power thing. I haven't had a chance to implement a TinyMC widget selector, but that's quite, yeah, I guess that would be a good thing for us to do, because a lot of people actually, more than I really was aware of, still use TinyMC for various reasons. Okay, and here's a bar chart from HTML table data. In WordPress? Okay. So let's go and actually have a look at some of these templates and what's in the admin area in Poodll, because this is quite interesting too. The demo site's always in a bit of a state of flux, so I try to keep it as maintained as I can, but really need to work over. So some of the templates there are based on old things that need a few tweaks to make them work properly. So if we go to the templates area here, this is where we have all the templates, and I've had to display them in this kind of unusual list format, because once the Boost theme came along, it exploded all these settings into one enormous huge list, and it became almost impossible to actually edit the templates. So I've had to kind of separate them out like this. But you can see each template has a name and a type and a version. The type is player or widget. The distinction there is that the players go through a system where they look at the file extension, and then if the file extension matches, then the player can be loaded. Whereas widgets are available from the pop-up area on the Atto editor. So here we have a tab item. So look at the tab item. Okay, and a whole bunch of settings like this. I guess the interesting thing here is that as a kind of a techie person, you can actually go in here and tweak things around. You could add a class to the the tab item so that it displays differently, and you could look at the JavaScript where the JavaScript where's the JavaScript for the tab item. Actually, I think most of that happens on the tab container. But anyway, so you actually have the ability to change things around. Let's look at, for example, where's our tiny video.js? Here's tiny video.js. We saw this earlier. It's a small version of the video player. So if we go to the tiny video.js player, and we think, oh yeah, this player is really good, but it's kind of it's kind of small. So we want to change the size of the tiny video.js player. So we go to the variable defaults and we change this from 240 to 180. And we might say we want to make that 360 by, what would it be, 240, like that. And we can just save that. We can save that, and then that's going to be saved. The other thing that we can do is we can export a template. I click on the bundle item. It actually downloads that template here, and I can share that on Moodle.org forums, or it's actually an area in the plugins database for these templates, or I can share them with other people, or I can just simply create a new template from that one. Should we do that? Let's go back to our templates. Go to an empty template, because there's a few empty ones at the bottom. And that, which I export, I then drag back over the same bundle box like that, and it fills up, and I have exactly the same template here. And in this case, I'm going to call this not tiny video.js, but medium video.js, like that. I'll call this one here medium video.js. We save that. Okay, so now we have a medium-sized video player, which we can then go to our file extension settings, and we can associate all MP4 videos with our medium video.js player, like that. So now all the videos on our site will be played in the medium video.js player. But as we saw earlier, we can actually limit that to a particular activity or to a particular course if we wish. Okay. Why are there only 4 things? Yes, Jan's great question, and something I need to explain is that you need to create them. I'll show you how to create them. So one way of creating them is what I did there, where you share bundle files. But a more direct way is you use the presets. There's a whole bunch of presets, and they're all available here in this autofill template with preset. So you'd find a blank template, and then from the list here, you would choose the widget. In this case, these ones here are widgets. Or you would choose the player that you wish to create. So let's create a stopwatch. And that will fill in the fields on the page. And then you just simply have to scroll to the bottom, save the changes, and now you have a new stopwatch template available. Okay. I'm talking like a motor. There's just one last thing I want to show you. As I mentioned, Poodll is now not free, so that, and I am considering some sort of free tier because I know people want to use it. I don't want to close the door on people, but in order to help with support, we actually have this support info file over here, and because I'd often get so many, I get a lot of support inquiries, and it's very hard to deal with them all, and I came up with this way of rather than me logging into this site and checking out all their settings, they can actually go to the support info page, and all of the relevant settings for support with Poodll, they're all dumped here on the page. So A, the user can see them, but B, they can click on this export button, and the file is downloaded, and then they can send that to me, and without actually looking at their site or logging into their site, I can see most of the information that I need to help solve their problem. I think that's a good example of where having a commercial model drove the need to provide better support, which drove the need to implement something that's actually really useful for Moodle. So I will finish my motor mouth presentation there, and I'll go back to my Big Blue Button session. If you have any questions now, please ask me those questions, and that would be good. Okay, any questions?
Just while people are getting their typing fingers warmed up there, Justin, we were discussing at the top of the session how you had a long list of to-dos for the Poodll set of apps, and it would be awesome if you could get some help testing their accessibility. So if anyone's a real accessibility nerd, please feel free to test and report issues back to Justin, because it does help make the overall better experience for everyone.
Yes, indeed. I'm the big thing. I saw that question Kim covered earlier, and so I didn't get a chance to talk to that. But let me just say now, how does the subscription work with the university? You can, in terms of the way the money is managed, you can pay with a credit card online, or you can just do. There's an option when you are on the Poodll.com site to pay by invoice. And then if you just kind of choose to pay by invoice, everything will get set up as per normal, and your subscription will work perfectly. And I just go offline and generate an invoice and send it to you, and then your department handles it. If you use an institution subscription, you get 5 Moodle URLs that you can register, and each URL that you registered gives you a registration code, and you need the registration code for Poodll to work. So you'll go to the Moodle Poodll.com. You'll enter your registration. So you'll enter your site URL for your university. Then you'll get the registration code, and then you'll go back to Poodll and paste it in there. One user, one site, Kim. So you can actually have multiple sites, because the Moodle URL really just covers the top level domain. And so if you have subdirectories, if you've got mymoodle.com/ site 1 or mymoodle.com/ site 2, those will all be covered by a single registration code, which is pretty good. And also with the institution, you can have subdomains. You can use a wildcard in the subdomain, so you could actually have site1.mymoodle.com and site2.mymoodle.com all working off the same registration code. And because you have 5 registration codes, you can go quite a long way. Boy, and I say that really fast because I know it so well, but I think I've confused you straight up. So what I'm going to do is I'll just send you a link here which explains that registration code system, and that will be a good thing. And I'll come back and answer the other question. Okay, and with the templates and adding stuff where you gave technical jargon, is there a way to convert it back into a sequence of buttons that created it? So instead of having technical words, have a pictorial representation. So with the template and adding stuff where you gave technical jargon, is there a way to convert it back into a sequence of buttons that created it? Can I ask you, Gareth, to turn on your mic and just explain that verbally, because I'm not quite getting it?
So when you're in the templates and you've got boxes and you've got little bits and bobs, and you're clicking on buttons, and it actually creates that sort of HTML with interleaved bits of template. Yes, and then you go back and edit it. That element there, I thought, oh, that actually, you're going from buttons to something really, really graphical and easy to use. There's a programming language called Scratch, and you just have little move things around and stuff. But then that turns it into, for people editing it, sort of semi-gobbledygook. Wonder if in the long term you could have some sort of thing pictorial, so it wasn't that technical underneath. You go back and think, oh, I need to insert it here or there, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure if I get it, but so we're in the HTML editor, and we're going to add something like a set of tabs, and is that right? And then is that what we're talking about?
And then, also in the template where you clicking on the button and it was making things, it was adding extra bits and bobs and code and stuff.
Oh yes, right. I see what you're saying. So, is there a way to convert it back into a sequence of buttons that quick? I don't know, Gareth. You've thrown me a curve. You've thrown me a curveball here at 7:30 a.m.
Sorry, it just occurred. It occurred to me from watching other presentations, and a good one from Scott Huntley about technical and not being confusing anymore. And it's thrown me exactly the same curveball with what the stuff I do. So
yeah. I'm not sure, but one thing. It's a bit unrelated actually, so I won't go down that track. But sorry, I'm not sure, but I do think that the template system, I created it thinking that everybody was going to rush in there and start creating templates, and of course that's not what happened. Everybody just used the sample templates, which I created really as demonstrations of what is possible. They used them as is, and they saw, Generico and Poodll widgets as tabs and accordions. So I think that's just something I probably have to run with and actually do, provide really good tabs and accordions and support them, as opposed to expect people to maintain them themselves. But it is possible to create cool stuff. I've seen some of the guys from Catalyst, using it in some of the solutions they provide. So I know it's being used and it is useful. Just nice if regular people could use it as easily. Okay. Anything else there?
It looks like you've had quite a few questions and been able to provide quite a lot of information for people here, Justin. Given that it's now 10 to the next session, I'm going to say thank you very much for sharing all your Poodle expertise with us this morning and this evening, everywhere you are around the world. I love the Poodle set of plugins, so thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much for being part of iMoot. Your sessions have been awesome. If people have got more questions, please contact Justin on the email address, via the demo. Really, I'm tongue-tied this morning. I'm so sorry. Via the Moodle main site. And with that, people, we're going to invite you to go and enjoy the rest of the iMoot sessions. Thank you very much, Justin. If everyone could join me in thanking you.
Okay, thank you very much. I should just quickly say something to Janice. Janice, there was a big issue with Google Chrome over the last month. Something happened. I really don't know what happened, but something happened, and with Chrome, I think, and it went bananas. And a lot of people, but not everybody, had trouble on their sites. So we released about 3 weeks ago, we released a version which actually fixes that. So I think that if you're having troubles with Chrome, I think the best thing to do is to get the latest version of Poodle, and it will probably fix it. And it's best if you install it from Moodle.org as opposed to installing it via zip files, because there is a file in Poodle that was causing an issue. So we need to remove that file, which is why using the installation from Moodle.org is a good thing. But I'm boring everybody with that. Janice, if you want to talk to me about it, just send me a message on via the contact form there, and I'll help you out. Thanks very much, everybody. Really enjoyed speaking to you, and looking forward to hearing from you. Bye bye.